it's an absolute disgrace that the top, our Soweto Giants, the team that are loved by most, they don't have a women's team.
The minute Orlando Pirates, the minute Kaizer Chiefs come on board, it's going to be a huge game changer.
And you know, the amazing thing, Coach, is that, you know, the desire for a young girl to want to play football is now there.
It's gonna be there, yes.
Our girls are more settled than the male footballers. You'll never hear them saying, I bought 2 cars, I bought 3 cars.
Yeah, they don't
You'll always hear, I built on at home. I once came to KZN for a tournament and we had a mixed group and we were going to stay at that caravan park. And when they saw us in the Kumbi, they said, no, so we came to sleep on the beach in the Kumbi. So I know what it means back then. Yes, you still have that around the country. And it's silly from how many, 30 years, more than 30 years, that we still have that. I can tell you, I got the opportunity to play football when our former late president, Nelson Mandela, was released from prison. I would never have gotten the opportunity.
Yes.
Never. I was 30 years old when he was released and I went to try out for the national team. When I played, 90% of the players were unemployed, including myself eventually. But now they have 1 degree, 2, maybe 3, still studying.
How's it, guys? This is the Legacy Locker Room, and today we are in a very beautiful hotel in Durban, a vintage hotel. Next to me, I've got the legendary Mr. Duke Madlala, and of course we do have Dr. Desiree Ellis with us this afternoon. We are here to celebrate a legacy of a great champion, that's what you are, and a story that started, let's just say, not so privileged, but you managed to turn it around. And it's a story that is now privileged, and all South Africans and Africans have seen your work. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And we just wanted to say your work speaks for itself. You really put together an amazing team. I just wanted to know from your story, the journey to becoming the captain of Banyana Banyana, and then now being the coach of Banyana Banyana, taking them all the way to become champions. That journey, how has it been for you?
Well, in the beginning it was difficult. You know, growing up as a young girl, wanting to play football, it wasn't the norm. People thought I wanted to be a boy, but I had great support from my parents. I joined the girls' team. A year later, the team was going to fail. My parents took over the team. My 3 sisters were forced to play football. And then at the very young age of 30, I get the opportunity to try out for the national team. Working in a butchery at the time, in a storeroom, I go to them and I say, listen, I'm going, you know. And back in the day, we're traveling in a minibus to go and try out for the national team, make the team as a vice captain, beat Eswatini 14-0, one of 3 players to score a hat-trick, very excited. On the way back, we get a puncture. So I get back to work a day late and I was told I absconded, so I get fired. But I won't say I didn't care. I'm now living my dream, you know, and continue playing at my club, doing odd jobs here and there. Then I became an ambassador for the World Cup, you know, and then Vera comes into the country in 2014. She calls all the coaches, we have a meeting, and she gives me a call to say, I want you to be the assistant for the first game. So we played the first game. I'm the assistant, and as they say, the rest is history. So, you know, she then leaves the country in 2016. I become the acting coach. I eventually become the head coach in 2018. We go to the WAFCON in Ghana, qualify for our first ever World Cup, which was absolutely amazing. And here we are now.
Like, how was that experience like? I mean, we have been trying to qualify, but you became the first South African to qualify. I mean, Banyana Banyana to the World Cup. How massive was that for you, just as a pride yourself?
Look, it was massive for me, but we were very close in 2014.
Yeah.
You know, we lost in the semi-final to Nigeria and Namibia, and then we played the 3rd place playoff. And I think if we played even up till now, we would not have scored. We had so many chances, and then they get the chance right at the end, Ivory Coast, to qualify. I can tell you, I was an assistant coach, but I was gutted because we had put so much in, you know. And we didn't change many things because I can say with all respect to other coaches, Vera was very meticulous, like very detailed. And
was there the one that we needed as South African in terms of coaching?
She brought things that we didn't know, we did it differently. She was more detailed. I remember when we qualified for the Olympics, we were in camp forever, and this one weekend we can get off, but we have to find our own way back to Cape Town. So we decided to go to her biggest mistake, to be honest. Joking about it now, we watched football that whole weekend. We had 3 teams in our group stages for the Olympics, but we watched over 100 matches. That's how detailed she was, and very detailed. If somebody stands at the near post and it's maybe a left footer or whatever it is, there's a reason. There's a reason why you use those players in those positions as headers to match them up. We were never that detailed, but yet Joseph Mkonza getting us to the Olympics for the first time in 2012, you know, and we forget about that, but we were never that detailed and very meticulous and so on. So I learned a lot from that, and so when I got the opportunity to take over the team, I got a conditioning coach who works similarly, because the days of putting down the cones and running, it's no longer, because everything is scientific. So we didn't change much. We just carried on. We changed a few things of the way we played, maybe the system, and you know, she put a very good defensive organization, and we then continued with that. And I think the building blocks that gets put in by all the coaches, Coach Joseph Mkonza put in, like you build a house.
Yes.
Then Makalakalani comes in, then Vera comes in. So that they put in, you mustn't take that for granted, because Banyana didn't happen now when I'm here.
Yes.
Banyana happened way back.
That's it.
So all those people that put in those foundations, eventually it came to fruition, because also the generation of players, the Refuelways and all of those players, Nokomaklo and those players, you know, they all came through that 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
The groundwork was done
already. The groundwork was done already by Coach Joseph, by Coach Vera, by Coach Augustine Makalakalani. And then we just, you know, just clicked, and qualifying for our first World Cup was probably breaking the ice. But I think it happened in 2017. We went to Kosafa in Zimbabwe, and we almost got knocked out of the group stages.
I remember,
against Botswana. We scored right at the end. We then were 3-0 down in the semi-final in the 78th minute. By the 83rd minute, we turned that around. I think the mentality shifted.
Yes.
So this mentality shifted, because then we won the final. And I think from that time on, the belief grew and grew and grew, and the team got better and better and better. You know, and then in 2018 when we qualified, I don't think people saw the best of us at the World Cup. I still look at that moment where we're leading 1-0 and we get that chance and we don't score, because myself and Coach Tina was still saying, if we're still leading by 70 minutes, we're going to change the formation. And they scored just before that. And then VAR comes in, and all of all of those things. Then we go back, because in 2018 we probably played the best football at WAFCON, but we didn't win it. We didn't win it. We go back. 2020 didn't happen. Then the tournament changes to 12 teams. Now the format is different, and you've got to look at that. So we go back and we now plan how we're going to do this now, because we must qualify, right? And I remember Jermaine saying, but coach, we want to win this. And I'm saying, but we have to qualify first, because you win the quarterfinal, you qualify. He said, well, if we win this, we qualify. But we didn't want to look too far ahead of ourselves, and within we know what we're capable of. Outside, we just keep it low and say this is what we want to do. And then the first game against Nigeria, the second game, we didn't play that well. Botswana, COVID happened, so we had a very small squad. And then the semi-final, good first half, not so good second half, but we were never going to lose that final. I can tell you that now.
I guess, Coach, it goes back to the mentality that was adapted when you first got to the semi-finals, and there was a belief this time around that we could come back and win it.
Yes.
And they did. They came back and won it. And now I can imagine for you as a coach, you know, you are now coaching a squad of players that truly believe that they are champions, my God.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But for me, the character, you lose the final in 2018, and then the next one, and you go and win it.
I think the team really grew.
Okay.
And I think...
But also in between, there was a COVID there, but
Yes.
just to have that still momentum, though,
Yes.
to
I
carry
think
on.
Aisha Buhari was big for us.
The game in Nigeria.
Aisha Buhari was so big for us. We hadn't seen most of our international players for 2 years. The only ones that came was Tembi and Noko came for an international friendly against Zambia and Botswana. And then the Aisha Buhari comes. And speaking to the Nigerians before, what changed for them? Speaking to the US, what changed for them? The Nigerians we sent players abroad. They came back with that experience. Whether they camp or not, they're training at this level. Whether they camp or not, they're playing at this level. It's just getting them to gel together. And I was always thinking, what would happen if we have a couple of players abroad? What would they bring? But I think our generation of players at the time that was playing abroad, they brought more. They brought more. They brought more than what I think the Nigerian players brought. Because we saw them for the first time in 2 years at the Aisha Buhari. We blew everyone away. I mean, winning 4-2 in Nigeria against Nigeria.
Impressive. It was very
And the way, yes, that said to me, we're on the right track.
Yes.
We're on the right track. Then 2020, we had really good preparation. We didn't have as many friendlies as everybody else had. Our league started late, but we had a good preparation. We had a long preparation, good camp, and I think that really, really helped us. Winning that first game was really important because when you don't win that first game, you're now looking at who you're going to play, how you're going to calculate. It's not in your own hands anymore. But the belief in that group, the connection in that group, and we worked with a mental coach for the team.
Maybe take us through the feelings, the emotions when you lifted that trophy, in Morocco, that Banyana Banyana are champions of Africa. Just take us through it. Like, how did that feel for you, for the players?
It's not something you can explain. It is very difficult to explain that emotion because I've also been to a final in 2000. I've been to a final in 2000.
Yes.
And in 2018, we got to the final and probably should have won it, but we didn't. 2020 was cancelled. Now we're in 2022.
And under adversity, because Tembi suffered an injury the first game.
Yes.
It was ruled out for the rest of the tournament.
It was actually the last group game.
Yes, group game.
But because of the squad that we selected, we were able to manage that. Remember, Hilda played the first game, didn't play again. Other players also didn't play because of COVID and had to be isolated. So we needed to manage that. Hilda played the first game and the final. But the group of players that we had, because we looked at plugging the gaps where we could, and the group of players we had did that. We had a very good bench as well. So when those players were not available, the other ones came in. And with all the lasers, with the whole stadium in red, our players were always focused. And getting to score first was also key.
Just to shut down the noise.
Was also key. Was also key. And the way we managed that, I think defensively we were amazing. We were amazing. And we scored when we needed to score. Sometimes we didn't play as flashy as we did in 2018, but we learned from that. We also needed to make sure that we kept our players fresh. Our league started late. We had, league was supposed to start in March, but April it didn't start yet. I remember us losing to Zambia in a friendly, media having a go at us. We didn't play league football, their league season was almost done. I remember us going to the Netherlands, we still didn't play league football. It could have been 3-3, Noko misses a penalty, Tembi misses a good chance. They hit us, we lose 5-1. Then going to Morocco, everybody playing around us. All we concentrated on was ourselves, how we can get better, how we can get fitter. And nobody really gave us a chance, to be honest. But we had this belief, we were in tip-top shape. I can honestly tell you that, in a very good shape. And the changes we made throughout the game was to keep players fresh for the knockout stages. So sometimes the games didn't go as we planned, but we got the result. Flashy football doesn't win you things, but we still try to play the type of football that we could. And when that final whistle blew, there was tears, there was prayers, there was everything. There was everything. I think we got back and we didn't sleep that night.
Sure.
We were sitting at reception with the trophy there and with the medals around our neck, and we didn't sleep.
What about the reception at the airport?
Oh, that was crazy. That was crazy, but when you look at the messages we got throughout the tournament, how the people were invested in us, how the people supported us. Some of them were watching on their phones during load shedding and all of that. And I think up till now, we don't realize the magnitude of what we did.
Sure.
I don't think so. Because getting to the airport and seeing all that people said how much it meant to them. To them.
Wow.
How much it meant to them. And we knew we were playing for something bigger than us. We knew that there's people back home. I mean, load shedding, you know, unemployment,
COVID,
so many things. We knew that we needed to bring some hope. We needed to put smiles on people's faces. We knew that. And that's why we step onto the field to do that. Sometimes it doesn't happen for you, but there's a plan to our madness.
There's a kind of a worry now that you had that team, coach. How look, some of them players are phasing away. I mean, look at Nokomatlo, you know, you look at Jermaine Seposene retiring. How are you going to, you know, just to replace those guys, because they form a core value of the team?
It takes time. You might not get a similar player, but we have a good generation of young players coming through. I go to many tournaments. I was on holiday in Cape Town. I went to an under-16 tournament. I said 12 and 13.
I saw there.
Some talent.
Yeah, top of the range.
You deserve it.
I said to the players, you must market yourself. I have more sponsors than you. You know, I go and I see 13, 12-year-olds that blow me away. And I went to an open tournament the Saturday I was at the one tournament, Saturday afternoon at the next tournament, the Sunday back to that tournament, tournament. And I saw this one player. And when I said to the coach, who's that? And when he mentioned the name sounded familiar. And I went to my notes. In 2024, I saw that same player.
My goodness.
But I couldn't remember. But when he said the name, I went back because I saw that player at the Engine in Cape Town in 2024. In 2024. Zoe October, I've known since she was 12. So I follow those players because I also want to see how they develop. Kwesi, I know for a long time. Okutle, I know for a long time. So I follow these players because I go to the Engine, which is not really the level that I want. But sometimes there's players there. People see me at games and I can watch it on TV. But I go to the game because I want to see everything. I want to see your reaction when you get taken off. I want to see your reaction when a teammate makes a mistake. I want to see what you do when you don't have the ball, how you react to your coach and all of those things, because that matter, because everybody's got talent.
You don't want to bring someone in the camp and then, no.
Everybody's got talent. So you look at the holistic, and attitude is very important. You've got to have the right attitude. So we have 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds that just need that extra nurturing. We have a 16-year-old here, Tori, behavior, you know. We have a 18-year-old Bonolo here. So we're just nurturing that talent, but they've got to go home and they've got to work on the extras. Because the Jermaines, the Nokos, the Janines, the Amanda Dlaminis, they put in the extra work when nobody was watching. I guess it's a nice thing to have, you know, all this talent that's coming through the system. At the same time, there's a crop of experienced players that are within the team that will help them to really just to usher them to the standard and the level that they can get to, especially now building up to AFCON. And we are here in Durban. You've been on camp. 2 friendlies coming up now against Algeria. Are you happy with what you've seen so far? Before I answer that question, the challenge though is that we also need our U17s and U20s to qualify. Because the experience they're going to get at the World Cup is second to none. Because sometimes you could take that jump from U20 straight, but sometimes you don't. So in 2-3 years' time, you lose that player. So them qualifying, because whether we like it or not, the Hollywood Base League is there, but it's not really helping us anymore because the quality is not there. The quality is not there. you know. So it's not really helping us more. So every country goes through a drought where for a year or two, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And these young players that we have now, you know, they need time. We brought in Karabo when she was 17. Straight from the under 17 World Cup. The same with Sibulele and so forth. And they've become better players, but they've put in the work off the field. That's also important. You think Ronaldo, Messi steps up and takes a free kick. They work on it. So Algeria happened because we had to quickly get a friendly because WAFCON was postponed. In reality, we were not going to use this window because WAFCON would have ended on the 3rd.
Yes.
And this window's on the 7th. So physically, it was not going to work.
So you had the expectation that you will go further in the tournament?
You have to believe. Yes. You have to go there with that ambition because I can guarantee you that if you speak to any country that's going to WAFCON, they have the same ambition.
Yeah.
But it's one game at a time.
Yes.
If you look there, you forget about what's happening. You lose focus. So we got Algeria and we could probably play them in the quarters, but we needed to get a friendly. They'll bring something different.
Yes.
We've played a lot of West African teams, physical teams, and we know sometimes we struggle with that. So we've played a lot of them and how to
Senegal, but you pump Senegal.
You see, we've learned how to play against the more physical teams. In 2016, when we went to AFCON, the WAFCON in Cameroon, we played them first half. They bullied us second half. Then we played COSAFA in 2018, and COSAFA brought Cameroon and they brought Uganda. And we bullied them. Yes. And we knew that we were on the right track for 2018. Yes. So teams come every time you play them. We played Senegal a year before. Yeah. And the year later, there was something else. Sure. Something else, to be honest.
Those friendlies, yes.
Yes. There was something else because we didn't take a lot of experienced players with us. Yes. Remember when we went to Senegal? Growing, really and they're growing. Other teams are growing, so we also have to grow with that and have to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. Yes. So we played Morocco, which was a very good result for us to end the year off on a high, playing the host, beating the host. And all they asked me, where's Khatlana? The coaches asked me, I said, no, she's coming. Yes. That's all I said, she's coming. And we then, now we got another North African team. Yeah. Physically, yes.
You'll match them, man.
Physically, they're good on the ball, which gives us a different challenge. Yes. Because normally we play against the physical teams. They will press you high or they will sit lower down. We have to plan. We have to be prepared for that as well. But it's a different challenge. Yeah. And then obviously we go to Japan, you know, and that.
Before we get to Japan, I mean, Madala, if we look at the group, we got is it Cote d'Ivoire? Yes. Burkina Faso. And we got I think Tanzania.
Yeah,
it's not an easy group, Coach.
No, Tanzania is a difficult team. Yeah. Very good youth structure as well, and we played them a few times in the tournament. Ivory Coast. The last time we played Ivory Coast was when I think when they knocked us out of the World Cup in 2014. Burkina Faso we played when we had to qualify for the 2022 WAFCON. So it's not easy. Yeah. If you look at who's not there, it tells you teams are growing. Yes. Teams are stepping up. DR Congo, wow, fantastic. Didn't make it. Cameroon came in when they increased it. They lost to Mali. Cape Verde came in. Botswana was there the last time, or not there. Malawi is there for the first time. So it tells you that it's not easy to get in anymore. You've got to be on your game. And we played a very difficult DR Congo game. Yes. But I had believed that we would, through all the issues and challenges, I had believed that we would get there. And the game is becoming much more difficult because teams are investing. Yes. Morocco has a two-tier professional league. Two-tier professional league. You can see.
They've invested a lot of money.
The results are not by fluke.
Champions League, Women's Champions League as well.
The results are not by fluke. They've invested. You look at Ghana's invested. You look at Cape Verde come out of nowhere to qualify. So these countries are investing, and if you don't plan and prepare well, you know, then. But I'm fortunate. I have a fantastic technical group and staff group, and I mean those are the people that don't get the credit.
Yes.
No, I
You're
don't.
the one that-
You know, I don't work alone. When the team wins,
Yeah. It's everyone,
When
coach.
the team wins, it's the players. When
Yeah.
the team loses, the coaches. But those people work hard behind the scenes. They know
Sure.
the game. They know the players. They put in the work. They work off camp. You know, so you've got to give credit where it's due.
Yes.
You know, if I was playing tennis, then yes, but a technical team, a support staff is very, very important.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
everybody plays their part, including the bus driver. They all play
Yes.
their part. The person who books the tickets in the office play their part.
Play the part.
You know,
Yeah.
So you have to give credit, and you cannot achieve anything without having such a fantastic group of
Yes.
people to work with.
Yes.
You cannot.
Just to have Salgado back in a national team coach.
It's the
It's an
mentality.
absolute shame when what she went to the AFCON
It's
was
the
absolutely.
it's the mentality.
Yeah.
Because if I suffered the injury like that, I don't think I'll able to, get stuck in.
It's the mentality of wanting to be there. You look at Temi's injury against Botswana.
Hey.
It was less than a year away. And everyone said Temi is going to miss the World Cup because it's going to take a year to recover. Temi was probably at the best in a very long time at that
Yes,
World Cup.
yes,
She was
absolutely,
frightening. She was frightening.
Incredible
But
form.
it shows the mentality.
Yeah.
So when other players get injured,
Yeah.
I always say, have a conversation with Tembi.
Yeah. It looks like there's a lot of maturity now in the squad. And, I think the maturity is also coming at the right time. AFCON, of course, that's the first
Yeah.
target, but I
Yeah.
think the ultimate goal is the FIFA World Cup.
True.
And with you, your leadership role, your mentality, your winning mentality, the team, how do we tackle the FIFA World Cup in Brazil?
Maybe finish in the top 4.
Look, we're not even thinking about that, to be honest.
Okay.
What we're thinking of is qualifying for the World Cup. That comes after.
Okay.
That comes after because you don't even know who you're playing yet.
Yes.
But it comes after because we like to what you say, follow the process.
Yes.
Like I said, in 2022, we lost to Zambia in a friendly. We beat Algeria. We qualified when we played Algeria. That same, but we needed that friendly because our league hadn't started. And people were already saying, 3-0 and they're going to the WAFCON. We knew it's a process. We lost to Netherlands, but we knew where we were and what we needed to do. So
yeah.
it was a step-by-step process. And when we got to the final, people were like, when we played the first game, they're not going to beat Nigeria, or whatever the case may be. But we knew within our group
Yes.
how we planned, what we planned, where we planned, and players knew that that one might not play today, that one will rest, that players knew that. We knew that because the ultimate goal was to qualify, was to win WAFCON after having come so close, right? And obviously qualify for the World Cup, which was 2022. So we knew all of those things, and we took it step by step. Like Coach T will always tell me before a tournament, Coach, it's time. It's
Yeah.
time to get off social media.
Yeah.
Not at all on social media during tournaments. Because everybody can say how fantastic the team is or how fantastic we are, but that one person that says something can throw you off. So we went off. I have my own mental coach.
Yes. Yes.
I work with a mental coach myself.
And how important is that, coach, for even players, even coaches, to go through some form of counseling, to help them with your mental issues?
Demands.
We have a mental coach. We had one in 2022. She was magnificent. We had a psychologist at the World Cup, but it didn't work for us. We have the same mental coach now, which is really, really important because I'm not an expert. And I mean, you wouldn't come to me as a player to speak about
Yes.
your anxiety because you would think that, okay, coach is going to cross me off.
Yeah.
Which
I'm not
is-
going to play.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't know how to respond to that because I don't have the expertise. So we got in the expertise to be able to assist us with that, to be able to get them ready for that competition, to be able to get them ready if they make or if they don't make the squad. Because let me tell you, the most difficult thing in the job is not the selection. It's telling someone you didn't make it. I've been there. As a player, I've been there. But you cannot tell, it's not the same emotion. It's
Yeah.
a different emotion. Because there's such a lot of money in the game now.
Yes.
And back in the day, we never got paid much.
Yeah.
So if you don't make the squad, you lose out on all the incentives and all of that.
Yes.
There's a lot involved. So that is probably the most difficult thing, is to sit there and tell someone, I'm sorry you didn't make it. It is the most emotional thing for me.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, Coach. I think let's just bring it back a bit more personally. Back in South Africa, we've been waiting for a women's soccer league for a very, very long time, Coach. You know, I think you guys have done the work. You've got the results. I think it will be worthy of money to be put towards a women's league, Madlala. And I just want your thoughts on that.
And the Kaizer Chiefs also now, I mean, they've stepped up a couple of weeks ago to aid, yeah.
I think the Hollywood bets came at the right time. It's not where we want to be, honestly. It's a step in the right direction, very slow though, because even going to the World Cup, what people forget is that this is an amateur national team, if you want to call it that, with a few professional players in, because our league is amateur. Now, can you imagine if that person doesn't have to go work on their day and can train at the time that you want, so train? We have players that have jobs. We have players that have jobs. And to think what they put in and where we are and how they achieve, I think we've gone beyond the expectations that people expect of us. And maybe not in my lifetime that we will have a professional league, but it is much needed for us to take that next step. It is much needed so we can take that next step. I've said in the past, the minute Orlando Pirates, the minute Kaizer Chiefs come on board, it's going to be a huge game changer.
And just to add on that, because for what I've seen, women are the ones who are buying this merchandise.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it.
It's true, they are the one. And I've been saying it's an absolute disgrace that the top, our Soweto Giants, the team that I love by more, they don't have a women's team. So I was quite pleased that the Kaizer Chiefs were coming on board. I mean, to have, of course, they're going to start in the Sasol League, but you can see the ambition where they want to go, and they've got all the facilities.
I think they've made the right decision.
Yeah.
I think hastily just getting into the Hollywood Bets League.
Just let them learn, understand.
Hastily in there, because you've got a plan and you've got to prepare, and it's fantastic that they have a sponsor already, which will help the team. And them coming on board is forcing other PSL teams now to do the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's also forcing Sundowns now.
Yeah.
TS Galaxy now to start stepping up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because with the players that they've recruited, and with so many teams already out of the Sasol League in Gauteng, they have a great chance to win the league, go to playoffs, to play in the Hollywood Bets next year. So can you imagine the competition?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the level now? Because who doesn't want to play for Kaizer Chiefs?
Yeah. And
inside their drama boys.
Who doesn't want to play the biggest club? Maybe
most supported club.
Maybe not results-wise, but still the biggest club, the club with the biggest brand, the club that has the most supporters. Who doesn't want to play for Kaizer Chiefs? So them getting to Hollywood Bets, it's going to be huge. Already them coming in with a sponsor, looking at a professional setup.
To elevate the brand of Hollywood Bets.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, the league.
The league's going to be big. Now you just need somebody with big money to make it professional.
And you know, the amazing thing, Coach, is that, you know, the desire for a young girl to want to play football is now there.
It's gonna be there, yes.
I mean, you're talking about how you managed to identify talent, young talent from a young age of 12. How many other young girls now, Madlala, are wanting to play football because of this winning mentality of Banyana Banyana? You know, we're now going to WAFCON believing we're going to win it. Another young girl right now is watching Banyana. I want to be a Banyana player one day.
Look, I always say we inspire others by what we do and by who we are. And I say to players, when you walk out there, there's so many kids that look what you do.
That I can do better.
And if you are not behaving, they will do the same thing.
Yeah.
They will think it's okay. They will think it's okay. So when you walk out there, you are the role model for that next young girl wanting to be where you are or wanting to be better where you are. So whatever you do, that kid is looking up to you. Whatever you do, how you present yourself, whether you go to nightclubs, whether you go to bars, whether you go to taverns, that young kid thinks it's okay.
It's okay,
It's okay. So it's important, but I must admit that and I might sound chauvinistic here, but I must admit that our girls are more settled than the male footballers. You'll never hear them saying, I bought 2 cars, I bought 3 cars.
Yeah, they don't
You'll
flash
always
it,
you'll always hear, I built on at home, or I bought a house.
Is it because of this, there's this superstition that when a woman is working, you know, she, in terms of the household at home, the expectations are not the same as men?
I think the players in the women's game have realized that they've become breadwinners.
Yeah.
That's what they've realized. And I'm not going to mention who. So we were going to an event in Gauteng, where the Gauteng government was helping the netball teams and the Hollywood Bets teams and assisting them financially. And one of the players got stuck. So I had to go pick the player up at Safa House. And when we came back, this player said to me, and it made me very emotional, Coach, you know what? I saved 97,000 Rand for bricks.
Wow.
To build at home.
It made me, I still get emotional when I think of it. One said, I built on a room at home. Coach, look at my house now, what I've done.
Wow.
I've bought a flat. Don't read those stories with me. So they realize that they've become breadwinners, but most importantly, most of them are educated. When I played, 90% of the players were unemployed, including myself eventually. But now they have 1 degree, 2, maybe 3, still studying. Bogeka's qualified, she studied. Jermaine studied. Hilda studied. Tembi studied and then went abroad. Linda's the only one that went straight from school.
Sure.
But all the players, Colossa that has played abroad, Noko that's playing abroad, they all have degrees. The Andra that's played abroad, they all have degrees. So they preparing for life.
Also help you as a coach.
Preparing for life after football.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
they're preparing for life after football.
What I've noticed, this is a conversation I had a long time with Coach Clinton Dawson, because there is a issue with many footballers here, like men's football. Guys dropped out, and then when you do all these technical analysis, oh my God, he doesn't know what he's doing. So that helps you because they were in university, so they understand what you guys are doing at the same time. They're not starstruck by it.
But the analysis must start from there, not here.
Yes.
It must start from there so they get used to that process, because it can become, for players, they can think that you're becoming personal when you highlight, but you're not highlighting them per se, you're highlighting that position. You're highlighting all the fullbacks or all the centre backs or all, but they can take it because they haven't grown up going through. So at under 17 level, national team U20, that is already in process. And at some clubs, they have analysts. At some clubs, they have analysts. So that is already in process. So you grow up with that mentality and that mindset. But if you've never been through that, you're not going to understand it. And you're going to be afraid to voice your opinion because maybe you think people will laugh at you, or maybe they'll think it's wrong. But football is not wrong, because we all see things differently. And if the understanding is there, it is better. But sometimes players just keep quiet because they haven't been exposed to that.
I'm looking at this camp, coach. No Holweni, no Kamete, no Tembi. I mean, I think this is a last camp you might have before the WAFCON. How does that put you? Is it putting you back? Because, you just say, I'm there, been there before. The experience of playing in the national team.
Though Jessica Wade as well, all medically not fit, unfortunately. We have another 2 camps, another camp coming up, which is the Japan camp. We also look at the games when they play abroad. Sometimes you're up 3 o'clock in the morning when they play to be able to watch them. And you get links as well to watch them, so you understand and you know. Because we haven't chosen the final squad yet. It would be crazy if I have the final squad now. Now that WAFCON is postponed, it gives you an opportunity to look at more players. It also gives you an opportunity, like Wendy's come back now, recovered from injury. Ronald is still busy recovering. It gives you that opportunity to be able to look at them and others now that the league is, because we have to make sure that when we select the squad for WAFCON, that we have a good mix of youth and experience, that we have all our bases covered, that if similar things happen players get injured, can someone step up, etc. Because Tempe getting injured, I'm sure you guys said, yo, that's it for the WAFCON. You know, I'm sure you guys said that.
Yeah, because of the chaos, because that Friday.
There we go. But the fact of the matter is, we had a plan. We knew Jermaine could step up. We knew Hilda could step up. You know, and we hadn't seen Jermaine for 2 years because Jermaine had problems with the visa, not being able to leave the country. You know, so we knew that that could happen. We knew if Rafil was not there, we could play Bongeka there, we could play Sibolele there, we could play Linda there, etc. We could play Amu there, we had Thalia in that, we had Nombula in that. We knew. So when that happened, yes, it was a big blow for us, but we knew we had other players that could step up, and we need to have that same mentality going into this next WAFCON, that if so-and-so is not playing, this one can step in, so-and-so is not playing, that one can step in, because it's going to take a huge effort, huge effort if you see how the game is growing, how the countries are growing.
Yes. And still talk about the AFCON, Coach. The incentive has now been increased. The cash prize for the winner is $1 million.
No, that was the last one.
That was the last one.
That was the last
Oh,
one.
okay.
That was the last one when they increased it. But he did say no. But he did say that there's going to be increase. But but it needs to be said now how much.
How much it is?
Because it affects everything.
Absolutely.
It needs to be said how much. Because if you look at CAF Champions League, that's also increased.
Increased, yes.
Confederation Cup, all those stuff, it's increased. CAF Women's Champions League, prize money is increased.
Yes.
Teams got participation fee.
Yes.
So we expect that WAFCON is going to be the same thing, where there's going to be an increase in prize money.
Okay. Well, the WAFCON played, you had it last year, you know, yes, you lost to Ghana, and then now you're having it again this year. Oh, God. The preparation, is that something that's ideal for you? I understand it because of for the previous with the competition, but is it ideal, Coach?
I think CAF needs to plan better, especially with the women's game.
Yeah.
It's so easily during COVID to cancel the women's WAFCON, but you play the under-17 AFCON, you play the under-20 AFCON. It's just easy. It's easy to take the 2024 WAFCON and play it in 2025 without thinking. It's easy just to take it from July to play in March, and then not have it in March. It's easy to make that decision where the women are concerned, and I think the women's game deserves a bit more respect.
Absolutely.
Because when you look at players on the African continent, they're playing big leagues, they're playing big clubs.
Absolutely, yeah.
They deserve that respect. They deserve that respect, and I don't think they've been given that respect. I think the biggest problem is communication. All we wanted was, yes, it's happening.
It was a disgrace.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, that wouldn't happen with the men's AFCON.
I mean, I was there. I almost asked you when you announced a sponsor with Standard Bank and Rosebank, because it was okay. There was a minister saying,
and the biggest rumor was it was not happening. The biggest rumor was it was not happening, and you sit there, you just carry on, because what do you do?
Yeah.
We had a camp until the 7th, which we were entitled to the FIFA dates, and during that camp, we heard that it was postponed, so we couldn't just cancel our camp, and during the early period of March, we just had to continue. But it put your back so much with all the logistics that you're planning, with everything that you're planning, but you face those challenges, and then you just have to reset, unfortunately.
But it must have come at a good time, Coach, because we had not these superstars players we just mentioned that perhaps you might have them come the WAFCON in July, but you have your best players by then.
Look, obviously they're not available for this friendly,
yes,
which is now, and we got to respect that. Probably could have brought in some players, but we also want players to be medically fit, not put too much pressure. We stay in contact with them on a weekly basis just to find out how they're doing, etc. And it's really, really important, that Amu also had withdrawn from the squad because she picked up an injury now. But it gives others an opportunity. That is the nice thing. It gives you an opportunity to have a look at other players, to see how they can step up. And with playing 2 friendlies, yes, you want to win the games, but you also want to see them play. You want to make sure that you give them because how do you test them if you don't play them?
Yes.
And sometimes as fans you want a result, but We know we want to win, but if you have friendlies, how do you not play players?
Yes.
You have to play
You have to play
players.
the fringe players.
You have to play them, because how are you going to test them? If you don't test them, you're not going to know if they're ready. So some were tested at COSAFA, some came through COSAFA, some need more time, some are here. So now you have to up your level all the time.
Yeah. So, Coach, let's bring it back now to South Africa. More on a lighter note. It's Freedom Month. I'd just love to know from you, what does that mean to you as a woman, firstly, and as young girls that are playing football in South Africa, you know, what does that mean to them?
I can tell you, I got the opportunity to play football when our former late president, Nelson Mandela, was released from prison. I would never have gotten the opportunity.
Yes.
Never. I was 30 years old when he was released, and I went to try out for the national team. So you have this dream, but you just think it's never going to happen. Then he gets released and I get the opportunity. So that's how big it is for me. Now kids have more opportunities than what they had
no
back
voice,
then.
nothing.
Now kids have more opportunities than what they had now.
My goodness.
There's so many things that they can do.
Yes.
There's so many places that they can go to.
Yeah,
that
even
they,
the facilities
that they couldn't go to. I once came to KZN for a tournament, and we had a mixed group, and we were going to stay at that caravan park. And when they saw us in the Kumbi, they said, no. So we came to sleep on the beach in the Kumbi. So I know what it means back then. Yes, you still have that around the country. And it's silly from so many, 30 years, more than 30 years, that we still have that. But players are getting opportunities back then. I never had the opportunity to study. My parents couldn't afford it. My sister got a bursary. Now there's bursaries. Now everywhere.
There's no excuses.
Local, abroad, everywhere.
That's why everyone want to come here out of the south.
Exactly.
There's opportunities now that we didn't have.
Yeah.
You know, so to the young girl and boy out there, take those opportunities. Change your life. Change the lives of the family around you, because that is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
We do what we do. We all take care of families.
Yeah. The people we love.
Everyone. So that is what we do.
How's like, I mean, within a CAF football of the coach of CAF, coach of the year 4 times coach. Like when you look at this at home, and then we just talk about the Freedom Month. When you look at all of that, coach.
Hey.
I mean, I don't remember anyone got to the award that you got right now. I mean, was it in the time? Okay. There's we just you know when you won it for the first time. We said, oh wow, this is achievement. But 4 times.
Yo.
But you must remember that we never do things for rewards or awards.
Yeah.
It happens when the team does well.
Yeah.
Players get nominated, the team gets nominated.
Then we won a CAF
Yes.
football of the
When
year.
you get that, it actually says that the team is on the right track more than anything. The reward is for those coaches out there. I mean, they put in the work. We get the team for a week. So if they don't put in the work, 24/7, the coaches that are out there. So we give credit to them too. It's not just Desiree's award. It's the coaches that I work with, it's the coaches out in the field.
Collectively.
More than anything, because it's not an individual sport that I'm in. It's a team sport that I'm in. Team sport that I'm in. And it's important to give that credit to them. So when you go on that podium, there's many people that you have to thank. Yes, people always say, yeah. But for me, I look at the broader picture of who has contributed to our success.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, is the most important thing. The awards and the rewards, for me, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
When I see that player getting a contract aboard, when a player calls you at 12 midnight and says, I passed matric, and I say, did you call your parents? No, I called you first. That's my reward.
Yes.
For me, it's a player back in the days when I was a club coach, a player making the national team. That's my reward.
That's a reward, yeah.
The medals, the medals, the trophies is a bonus. For me, that's a bonus. Because when you go there, you don't go there because you want to win a medal. You don't go there because you want to win a trophy. You don't go there for that purpose. But when the team does well, that is what happens. You get nominated. Coach Tino was nominated when UWC won the COSAFA Cup. Yeah. So for me, that's a bonus.
Sure. What do you want to be remembered?
That I changed someone else's life.
That's beautiful.
More than anything. Doesn't matter how small it is.
That's beautiful.
Because we here for a reason. We here for a reason.
I mean, over 10 years now, it's,
Yeah.
we can't even look at anyone and just say,
we on earth for a reason to make a difference.
That's it. Serving our purpose.
That's it. Doesn't matter how small it is. When someone comes up to you that you have even forgotten and said, you remember me.
Yeah.
What, and you know, it warms your heart when you hear those stories.
yeah.
So for me, it's just making that difference and being able to have helped someone achieve their dream. That's it.
Sure.
How does your day look like when you're not in camp, coach? What do you do?
Sometimes I just lie in my bed. If there's no soccer, I lie in my bed. I switch my phone off if I can.
That's why sometimes when I get there,
I leave my personal phone on.
Yeah.
I switch my phone off. I lie in bed. I eat. I get back into bed. I watch TV. I sleep. But most times I'm on the soccer field.
Yeah.
Either watching games on TV or on the soccer field, because I don't want to miss that
Yes,
next little
Yeah,
gem.
yes.
I don't want to
Yes.
miss. I was on holiday in Cape Town,
Yeah.
but I was at the soccer field.
So you feel that there's a sense of responsibility from your side that we have to be there, we have to be seen.
No, I don't think it's a responsibility. I think it's more that I want to be there.
The passion, the love.
I don't need to say it's an obligation.
Yeah.
I don't need to say it's my duty. I want to be there.
That's beautiful,
Because
man.
I feel I'm going to miss out on something.
Yeah.
I feel I'm not going to, there's that one player that I would have missed out on.
Yes.
And when I go there and I see these young players, it just put a smile on my face. Because we have so many good youngsters coming through. It's just about nurturing that talent now.
Sure.
So it's not a oh, I have to go to the game.
Yes.
It's not that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how tired you are. I still want to go and see, because I know further down the line, that's going to help me. When I go to a game, I will watch you against this opposition. I will watch you against this opposition. I will watch you against that opposition. I'll watch you here. So I have an understanding of everything. How you react when you play weaker teams, how you react when you play stronger teams, how you play when you play average teams. Do you still raise your levels? Or do you just go through the motions? All of those things. So that's the reason why I go to games, also to monitor the consistency. Because I ask for consistency in the league. You can't play well against Mamelodi Sundowns, then you play the bottom team and you know. I ask for the consistency. So that's why I go to games. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm not able to watch it on TV. It's not the same though. But even if it's in Gauteng, I go to the game.
Yeah.
Even if it's on TV, I go to the game. Unless I'm outside of Gauteng and I'm not able to go to the game, I will watch it on TV or wherever it is.
Change of trips now. Unlike what you what do you think is the reward of the hard work you guys have been doing, you know, with the men and also the women's national teams? Do you think that's down to that? The success that has been happening in the past 5 years now, yeah?
I did say when we won WAFCON that medal is going to change things.
Yeah.
The wheel has turned slowly to change things, especially for women's football. But it has changed. I think the change needs to happen quicker. We've done our job on the field. You know, and I don't know why sponsors are not coming. Maybe
coming on board, yeah.
Maybe the team is not marketed enough. Maybe I don't know. But we can only do our job on the field.
I mean, just talk about the WAFCON or just postpone. We were uncertainty.
Yeah, we can only do our job on the field, or try to do our job on the field and be the best that we can be. Maybe through that attract. It's all we can do.
Coach, in closing, what would be your final wish in celebrating your legacy as a coach and of course as a former player and as a mother, you know, to these lovely young ladies that you're trying to nurture?
Also your message with these two games to edge sort of, I mean, people in Durban to watch these two games, yeah?
Obviously, to win WAFCON again. You don't want to be remembered as a team that has only won it once. And I think if we had better preparation for the last one, we would have had a very good chance. Go back to the World Cup and do better, create more opportunities for the players to become superheroines again. To the young girl out there, grab every opportunity that you can. To the parents out there, don't put your child in a box, because Let her do whatever she wants to do. Let her play whatever she wants to play, and not force her because you're a netballer or a footballer.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where the talent lies. When they get older, let them decide. We've seen that happen to male footballers. We've seen that happen to the young kids out there. You never know who's watching. Just be the best you can be, because the opportunity might pass you by if you don't be your best. If you don't, to the coaches out there, work on your craft. We all have a role to play. To the young coaches out there, your role is very important because of the development. To all the fans out there.
Yeah, these two came Tuesday and Friday.
We are in Durban for the 3rd time. We came here in 2019, we played Jamaica.
Yeah.
You had a good crowd at Moses Mabhida.
Yes.
We
And
came
Brazil.
here and played Brazil.
Yeah.
We had a good crowd. Now we're coming to Princess Magogo and we're coming to Kingswell Etini.
Yeah.
Come out in your numbers.
That's
Come
right.
support this fantastic team that have put in so much work,
That's right.
and they will give you the game of your lives.
That's beautiful.
Coach,
Wow,
I wish
Coach,
you well.
thank you very much. Mr. Duke, thank you very
Yeah.
much for your time. Guys, thank you very much for putting up with us. We are in a hotel with lots of people are walking around, so please excuse the sound. But we'll catch you on the next episode. This has been The Locker Room for myself, Magdlamini, Coach Desiree Ellis, and of course, my homeboy, Ubaba, Juk Madlala. We'll see you in the next one. Shop, shop.